The emperor's broken heart, the marble floors of the imperial palace gleamed like mirrors under the flickering light of 1,000 oil lamps. Emperor Gaius Valerius stood at the window of his private chambers, watching the sun set over the 7 hills of Rome. At 28, he commanded the largest empire the world had ever known. Yet tonight his hands trembled like those of a frightened child. In the room behind him lay the lifeless body of Empress Helena, his beloved wife of 3 years. Her golden hair spread across silk pillows like spilled honey, her pale skin still bearing the ethereal beauty that had first captured his heart in the markets of Athens. But her chest no longer rose and fell with breath, and her emerald eyes stared unseeing at the painted ceiling above. The accident had happened so quickly. One moment they were arguing about his latest theatrical performance, Helena's voice sharp with frustration as she criticized his neglect of state duties. Her words had cut deep because they rang with truth. Gaius had become obsessed with his artistic pursuits, spending entire days composing poetry and rehearsing for public performances while leaving the business of ruling to his advisors. "You care more for the applause of strangers than the needs of your people," Helena had said, her voice rising with each word. What kind of emperor abandons his responsibilities for vanity? The accusation had struck him like a physical blow. In his rage, Gaius had swept his arm across the table, sending a heavy bronze lamp flying. It struck Helena in the temple with a sickening crack, and she crumpled to the floor like a broken doll. Blood pooled beneath her head, dark against the white marble. For hours afterward, Gaius had knelt beside her body, begging physicians to save her life. He offered them gold, land, even provinces, if they could bring back his beloved Helena. But the greatest doctors in Rome could only shake their heads and murmur about the will of the gods. Death had claimed the empress, and not even imperial power could undo what had been done. Now, 3 days later, Gaius refused to allow Helena's burial. Roman custom demanded that the dead be cremated within a week, but the emperor had issued orders that anyone who tried to remove his wife's body would be executed. The palace staff whispered fearfully among themselves, wondering how long their ruler's madness would last. "My lord," came a gentle voice from the doorway. Gaius turned to see Darius, a young freedman who served as one of his personal attendants. The boy was perhaps 17 years old, with delicate features and large, dark eyes that reminded many observers of classical statues depicting youthful beauty. Darius had been born into slavery but freed as a child, receiving education that prepared him for service in the imperial household. "What is it, Darius?" Gaius asked, his voice hoarse from days of weeping. "The senators are requesting an audience, my lord. They say urgent matters require your attention." Gaius waved dismissively. "Tell them I am in mourning. The empire can govern itself for a while longer." Darius hesitated at the doorway, clearly wanting to say more but uncertain how to proceed. His position in the household was privileged compared to ordinary slaves, but he remained completely dependent on imperial favor. One wrong word could mean exile, imprisonment, or death. "Speak," Gaius commanded, noticing the young man's reluctance. "Forgive me, my lord, but the people are growing restless. Food supplies are running low in the eastern districts, and there are reports of bandits attacking merchant caravans. The governors need your guidance on how to respond." For a moment, fury flashed in Gaius's eyes. How dare this boy lecture him about duty when his beloved Helena lay dead? But then, something else caught his attention. In the lamplight, Darius's profile bore a striking resemblance to the empress. The same delicate jawline, the same large eyes, even similar coloring around the temples. An idea began forming in the emperor's mind, terrible and beautiful at the same time. What if death wasn't truly final? What if there was a way to bring Helena back, not through magic or divine intervention, but through careful planning and imperial resources? "Come closer, Darius," Gaius said softly. The young freedman stepped into the room, his sandals silent on the marble floor. As he approached, the resemblance became even more apparent. With the right clothing, cosmetics, and perhaps some physical modifications, Darius could be transformed into a living reminder of the dead empress. "Tell me, boy, how devoted are you to your emperor?" "Completely, my lord. My life belongs to you." Gaius smiled for the first time since Helena's death. "Good, because I have a special task for you, one that will elevate you above all other servants in this palace." Darius bowed his head respectfully, unaware that he was about to become the centerpiece of the most elaborate and disturbing plan in imperial history. In his innocence, he imagined administrative duties, or perhaps appointment, to a governmental position. He could never have guessed that his emperor was planning to erase his identity entirely. Over the following days, Gaius began making careful preparations. He summoned the palace's best physicians, ostensibly to discuss Helena's preservation, but actually to inquire about surgical procedures that could alter human appearance. He met with master artisans who specialized in cosmetics and jewelry, commissioning pieces that would complement his grand design. Most importantly, he began studying Darius more carefully, noting not just physical similarities to Helena, but also personality traits that could be modified or enhanced. The young man was naturally quiet and thoughtful, qualities that could be shaped into the feminine grace Gaius remembered in his wife. "Darius," the emperor called one evening as the young freedman prepared to leave his chambers. "Yes, my lord." "How would you feel about serving me in a more intimate capacity?" The question hung in the air like incense smoke. Darius felt his cheeks flush, uncertain whether the emperor was making a romantic proposition or offering him advancement within the household hierarchy. Either possibility was both flattering and terrifying. "I exist to serve your will, my lord. Whatever role you choose for me, I will fulfill to the best of my abilities." Gaius nodded approvingly. "Excellent. Tomorrow we begin your preparation for new duties. You will find them quite different from anything you have done before." That night, Darius lay awake on his simple bed in the servants' quarters, wondering what the emperor had planned for him. He thought perhaps he might become a personal secretary or bodyguard, positions that would give him status and security within the palace. The idea excited him, as any freedman would be thrilled by the prospect of advancement. Meanwhile, in his private chambers, Gaius stood once again beside Helena's body. Her skin had grown pale and waxy, but careful preservation techniques had maintained her beauty. He reached out to stroke her hair, imagining the day when he could touch living flesh that bore her face. "Soon, my beloved," he whispered, "soon you will return to me, and we will never be separated again." Outside the palace walls, Rome continued its daily business, unaware that their emperor was planning something that would shock even a city accustomed to imperial excess. Citizens went about their routines, merchants sold their goods, and senators debated policy, all ignorant of the psychological horror that was about to unfold within the marble halls of power. The transformation would begin tomorrow, and nothing would ever be the same for the innocent young man who bore an unfortunate resemblance to a dead empress. Darius's life as he knew it was about to end, replaced by something far more complex and infinitely more tragic. The forbidden transformation. The morning sun cast long shadows across the marble corridors as Darius made his way to the emperor's private quarters. He had dressed carefully in his finest tunic, hoping to make a good impression for whatever new responsibilities awaited him. The young freedman's heart raced with anticipation and nervousness as he approached the ornate doors guarded by silent Praetorians. "Enter," came Gaius's voice from within. Darius stepped into the chamber and immediately noticed changes from the previous evening. Heavy curtains had been drawn across the windows, and additional oil lamps provided flickering illumination. Most unsettling was the presence of 3 strangers: an elderly man with surgical instruments laid out on a silver tray, a middle-aged woman surrounded by cosmetic supplies, and a younger man holding lengths of fine silk fabric. "Ah, Darius," the Emperor said warmly, rising from his chair beside Helena's still form. "Allow me to introduce your new tutors. This is Quintus, the finest physician in Rome. Beside him is Claudia, master of cosmetic arts, and Marcus, who creates the most beautiful garments for noble ladies." The young freedman bowed politely to each person, though confusion clouded his features. "My lord, I'm not certain I understand. What kind of duties require such? Specialized instruction?" Gaius placed a gentle hand on Darius's shoulder, his touch deceptively paternal. "You are going to help me bring back my beloved Helena, not through magic or divine intervention, but through careful transformation. You will become her living embodiment." The words hit Darius like ice water. He stared at the Emperor, hoping this was some elaborate jest, but Gaius's expression remained deadly serious. Around the room, the three specialists began preparing their materials with practiced efficiency. "My lord, I don't understand. I am a man, not a woman. How could I possibly—" "Details," Gaius interrupted with a wave of his hand. "Quintus here has performed similar procedures before. The human body is remarkably adaptable when guided by skilled hands. Within a few months, no one will remember the boy you once were." Physician Quintus stepped forward, his weathered face grave with professional concern. "Emperor, I must warn you that such procedures carry significant risks. The subject could die from blood loss or infection. Even if successful, the psychological trauma will be manageable." Gaius cut him off sharply. "Darius is devoted to his emperor. He understands that sacrifice is required for greatness." The young freedman felt the room spinning around him. This couldn't be happening. Surely the Emperor was testing his loyalty or playing some cruel joke. But the surgical instruments gleaming on the silver tray looked very real, as did the determination in Gaius's eyes. "My lord," Darius said carefully, "I am honored by your trust, but perhaps there are other ways to honor the Empress's memory. A statue, perhaps, or a temple in her name." Gaius's expression darkened. "Do you think I haven't considered such things? Stone and marble cannot replace warm flesh. They cannot speak her name or smile as she did or move with her grace. No, Darius, what I require is far more ambitious." The Emperor began pacing around the room, gesturing as he spoke. "You will undergo physical modifications to enhance your resemblance to Helena. Your voice will be trained to match her tone and cadence. You will learn to move as she moved, to gesture as she gestured, to be her in every possible way." Cosmetic artist Claudia cleared her throat delicately. "Your Majesty, may I suggest we begin with less? Permanent alterations? Proper clothing and makeup can achieve remarkable transformations without surgical intervention." "No!" Gaius snapped, causing everyone in the room to flinch. "This must be perfect, complete, irreversible. I will not settle for mere disguise when I can have true rebirth." Darius felt his legs growing weak. The magnitude of what the Emperor was proposing began sinking in. He would lose everything that made him who he was: his identity, his body, his future, even his name. He would become a living doll, created solely for one man's twisted fantasy. "Please, my lord," he whispered, dropping to his knees, "I beg you to reconsider. I am willing to serve you in any other capacity. Send me to the provinces as a governor. Make me a general in your armies. Anything but this." Gaius knelt beside the trembling young man, his voice becoming soft and persuasive. "Darius, do you not see the honor I am offering you? You will become the most beloved person in the empire. You will sit beside me at state functions where the finest jewels live in luxury beyond imagination. What freedman could ask for more?" "But I will not be me," Darius replied, tears streaming down his cheeks. I will be a shadow, a copy, a thing created for your pleasure." The Emperor's expression hardened once again. "You forget your place, boy. You are not here by choice, but by my will. Your life, your body, your very existence belongs to me. I can elevate you to heights unimaginable or destroy you utterly. The choice is yours, cooperation or consequences." The threat hung in the air like a blade. Darius knew that refusal meant certain death, probably preceded by torture. But acceptance meant a different kind of death, the slow erasure of everything he had ever been. Seeing the young man's hesitation, Gaius played his final card. "Think of Helena, Darius. She was taken from this world too soon, denied the chance to fulfill her destiny as empress. Through you she can live again, can continue the great work she began. Is that not a noble purpose?" The manipulation was masterful, appealing to Darius's sense of duty while disguising the emperor's selfish desires as altruistic mission. The young freedman found himself nodding slowly, trapped by logic that was both compelling and horrifying. When would this begin? He asked quietly. "Immediately," Gaius replied, rising to his feet. "Quintus will begin the physical modifications today. Claudia will start teaching you cosmetic techniques this afternoon. Marcus will take measurements for your new wardrobe. Within 6 months, the transformation will be complete." Physician Quintus approached with obvious reluctance. "Young man, I must explain the procedures involved. They will be extremely painful and carry significant risk of complications. Are you certain you wish to proceed?" Darius looked around the room at faces that showed varying degrees of sympathy, fear, and professional detachment. None of them would help him. None of them could challenge imperial authority without risking their own lives. "I understand," he said finally. "I place myself in your hands." The next several hours passed in a blur of preparation and procedure. Quintus worked with methodical precision, his experienced hands guided by decades of medical knowledge. The young freedman gritted his teeth against waves of agony, occasionally losing consciousness when the pain became unbearable. Throughout the ordeal, Gaius remained present, offering words of encouragement and reminders of the glorious future that awaited. "Think of Helena," he would whisper during the worst moments. "You are helping her return to us." When the surgical work was finally complete, Darius lay pale and trembling on blood-stained sheets. His body had been forever altered in ways that would take weeks to fully heal and months to completely understand. But this was only the beginning of his transformation. Claudia began her work immediately, showing him how cosmetics could further feminize his features. She taught him to apply kohl around his eyes to make them appear larger, to use rouge on his cheeks for a healthy glow, to employ various powders and paints to soften masculine angles. "The key," she explained while working on his face, "is to enhance natural beauty rather than create artificial appearance. Helena was known for her subtle elegance, never gaudy display." Marcus the tailor took careful measurements, discussing fabric choices and styling options that would flatter his modified physique. "Silk from China will drape beautifully," he noted, "and we can use strategic tailoring to create the illusion of feminine curves." But perhaps most challenging was the voice training that began immediately. A specialist named Lucia arrived that evening carrying various instruments and scrolls covered with vocal exercises. "Your natural speaking voice is quite deep," she observed after hearing him speak. "We must train new muscle memory, teach your throat to produce higher tones consistently. This will require daily practice for many months." As night fell over Rome, Darius lay in new quarters that had been prepared for his transformation. The room was decorated in feminine style with soft fabrics, delicate furniture, and mirrors everywhere. It was beautiful and luxurious, but it felt like a gilded cage. Through the window, he could see ordinary citizens going about their evening routines. Families sharing dinner, Merchants closing their shops, children playing in the streets, all of them free to be themselves, to make their own choices about their lives and futures. Tomorrow would bring more training, more modifications, more steps toward becoming someone else entirely. With each passing day, the boy named Darius would fade a little more, replaced by an artificial creation designed to fulfill one man's impossible dream of resurrection. In his private chambers, Emperor Gaius stood once again beside Helena's preserved body. "Soon, my beloved," he whispered, stroking her cold cheek. "Soon you will walk beside me again, speak to me again, love me as you did before. Death has won this battle, but I will win the war." The transformation had begun, and there would be no turning back. Continue to part 3, type yes to continue this haunting tale of identity, power, and obsession.